welcome to another solo wargame review from the Player's Aid. I'm Grant. So I'm not really going to go into a lot of depth into this game here today. We actually did a preview video almost 2 years ago for the Kickstarter campaign. But this game is Knights of Fire, Battle for Budapest from Mighty Boards, designed by David Turksey and Brian Train. We were drawn into the project by Brian Train. If you know, we love Brian's games. We have probably a dozen of them, have played them, off and on over the past few years and really enjoy his designs, which are typically focused on insurgency, counterinsurgency, small engagements, although he's done some big war games as well. But this was a joint effort between him and David and is a follow-up effort to a game that came out in 2016 called Days of Ire, which really covers, I believe it's the 1956 Budapest Revolution against the Soviet occupation, after World War II and during the Cold War. And I'm probably butchering some of the history, so, give me a break on that. But this game has various options. You can do a solo game, which is what I'm going to talk about a little bit here. You can also do a cooperative game. So two players will kind of split the duties of controlling the insurgents, which you can see on the board here in block form. You can also do a two-player competitive game where one side controls the insurgents, the other side controls the Soviets. That's why blocks are used. If you'll notice, these blocks are stood up. Some of these are stood up, meaning they're in hiding. The ones that are laying flat, which are visible to the Soviets and everyone, are units that have been either reconned or they've taken actions which requires them to uncover themselves and be noticed by the Soviets. But the game deals with, in essence, just 4 days of this campaign. And give you a little bit of background, and Brian will probably get on the video and correct me. Days of Ire covers the Hungarian kind of attack, which was fairly successful. They regained the city, kind of chased the Soviets out, and then a couple of months later, the Soviets returned in force. And as you can see, let me show you the cover. As you can see, abject terror for the Hungarian insurgents as they are basically running away from 3 full divisions of tanks and mechanized rifle units. So kind of a very cool cover that evokes that almost dire, I don't want to say you have no chance of winning, but I'm going to be honest, it's very difficult to win. And really, to be honest, winning is a misnomer here, because really what you're doing is you're simply trying to survive enough here on this calendar to the end of this day 7 turn, and you're trying to force down the Soviet prestige, which is tracked along the right side of the map, while maintaining your morale here on the left side of the map. If your morale drops to a certain level to 0, you surrender automatically without any further turns. You can also voluntarily retire. You can surrender. And in essence, if you put up a good fight, driven down the prestige of the Soviets, you can surrender with, say, 6 or 7, 8 units on the board and drive that prestige even further down. Prestige is an abstracted concept of how the world views the Soviet Union through this crisis. So it's a very cool thing. You're trying to push that down. You're trying to do damage to these tank divisions and these garrisons that they put out. But in the end, you don't have enough units, you don't have enough actions, and your units really can't defend themselves a whole lot. They can build barricades, which you can see here on the map. Those barricades will force a Soviet division. Here, let me show you. This is the 2nd Guards tank division. They're in this district. If they move in there, they have kind of a priority based on these cards here that you can see out to the side. Let me kind of move those. This is called the Konyev deck, And this is how you play solitaire or two-player cooperative. You're playing against these 5 cards that have a priority system of actions that these units are going to take, how they're going to move. There's a priority of where they move based on what's called the highest threat. Typically, the highest threat is categorized by these tokens. These are citizens, and they have a flip side. So in the normal game, these are going to be spread out. In the game where you're playing against a real Soviet player, they're going to be on the map face down, so you don't know what the value of these citizens are. But in the end, you as the insurgent player know, oh, that one's worth 2. So this one, for you as an insurgent, is more important to get out and allow them to kind of make their way to the Austrian border by rescuing them. Because what that's going to do in the end is it's going to drive this prestige down a couple of spots for each number. So if that's a number 2 citizen, that's going to drive that prestige down 2 at the end. So you definitely want to save the 2s and the 1s. You'll also notice there are some citizens that are 0s. These don't, if you save them, they don't help you by driving that prestige down, but they keep them out of the killed or arrested box, which ultimately in the end drives your morale down at the end of every turn when you're doing the cleanup phase. So that's how that element works. So it's actually a very well done game and design. This Konyev deck, while I'm going to be honest, it took me. We played it 2 or 3 times co-op 2 years ago, and then did our preview video, and I felt like we had a good handle on it. But now I think I've played this game 3 times, and now I'm shooting this video solo without my rules lawyer, Alexander, here to really help me through it. Some of the language, I'm going to be honest, could be a little clearer. I think the priorities and the terminology could be a little bit clearer, but let me show you an example of what this card is. So this card tells you when it is drawn, and actually, okay, I'm going to go over this, and this is kind of, I feel like this is hodgepodge, but you'll see these numbers. They are 1 through 6. This one is 5 and 6. There are 5 Konyev cards. That's going to constitute a round, and during that round also, the insurgents, as long as their morale level is above 18, will have 12 of these cards that they are trying to play, taking actions against the tanks, the regiments, the divisions. They can help citizens escape, build barricades, heal each other, do other things depending on what variant you're playing. Once those 5 Konyev cards have gone off, and once the insurgent has played all 12 of their cards, that round is over. You'll do the cleanup, you'll reduce morale and prestige, then you'll draw some new cards and do some other things. The other thing you got to remember is every round, you'll notice these garrisons here on the map that I'm pointing to, making sure you can see that, they have been damaged. They have been ambushed, or they've been direct open attacked, and you can see they're flipped over, so that means they are disabled. This is the end of, I want to say this is the 3rd turn on the 4th. So I've still got 7 turns to survive, and I'm not going to. They've really moved up quickly, and some of these bad cards have come out often. But at the end of the round, those are going to flip back over, and it's like you got to fight them again. And that's why I mentioned to you, you're not going to outright win this. You're simply trying to hold out as long as possible, do as much damage as possible, driving this prestige track down. If you get it down to 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, you're going to have variance of victory. You're going to have like a minor victory or a major victory or a loss. If you get it down to negatives, it's a major victory. So once again, it's never really an outright victory. You feel good that, hey, I didn't die. So keep that in mind when you get this game. But this game is very interesting. It is a Euro style, because David is a Euro designer, Euro style war game with hidden blocks, action cards. There's this very cool solitaire system, various actions that you spend. Here's a revolutionary card. They have op points. You'll notice it says 2. And then there are different icons. So these icons, this is a counterattack icon, and this is a recruit icon. If you play this card in combination with other cards for the various op values. So if I played these two together, this is 4 op value. Most of the actions cost anywhere from 2 to 4. Getting the citizens to escape costs 6, minus the number of insurgents that you have in each area where there are citizens that you're helping escape. So you can get that down to 3 or 4 maybe. But you're going to play 4 ops. You can't make change. That's the other bad thing about this. And you can see there are 1 to 3. I'm going to go back to that card here in a minute with the Konyev deck. But the values are 1 to 3. You can see this is my fresh hand of cards I just kind of drew for this example. And you can see I didn't do that well. Lots of 1s. I think I have 4 1s there, 4 5 2s, and then only a couple of 3s out of 12 cards. So that's going to be a tough hand. But you play those cards to take those actions. Konyev goes every time. Revolutionary always goes first. Konyev then goes. So the Revolutionary is going to take 1 action. Then one of these Konyev cards, you're going to actually roll this 6-sided dice. So I rolled a 1. You can see that there. That corresponds to these numbered slots for these cards. Let me put this one back. I was going to show you that, and I did. But, I rolled a 1, so I'm going to grab this card, and this is what Konyev is going to do this time. Then this is kind of slick. This, you're going to typically move to the left, but you can't move left, so you're going to move right. So the next turn, this card, which we can't see, will be activated on a roll of 1 to 2. 3, this one will be activated on a 4, and this on a 5 to a 6. So you can see that the chances of each of those events happening increases as you move forward in the round. You can also do a little bit of planning, because as you look at these, you can see, okay, the 33rd Guard is going to activate. They're down here. And then these other 2, Assault, really a bad card. I hate that card. And then this Occupy is also pretty bad because they're going to put out garrisons and recover garrisons. And it's like undoing your work and even making it harder for you to do what you want to do. So you can look, but you can see that there's always 2 that you're not going to be able to affect. So let's go back to this card. So this is activate the 33rd Guards Mechanized Division. I'm going to share this with you really quickly. We're not going to go into great depth, but it says first you're going to rally a disabled regiment in the sector. So let me pull the map over the camera over here. This sector, and you can see the different colors of green, this is the 33rd Guards Mechanized Division sector. They have 3 full regiments. I think they're called regiments. Now I'm hesitating. Yes, they're called regiments. These are garrisons, and you have 3 of those. So you have several units that are trying to capture citizens, kill insurgents. They've been very successful. You can see I've lost multiple insurgents. And then they're only going to activate in this area. So, the reality is sometimes these sectors become lost, and you're going to almost just have to give them up. You try to do what you can do, but I'm really losing this sector. I think they've drawn their card a couple of times, and it's just been really bad. But first off, you're going to rally a disabled regiment. There's no roll. None of these are disabled. If this one was turned over to its disabled side, I would simply rally it. So that, it sucks, frankly, but that's what they do. They have a lot of resources. They're able to fix their stuff and bring new stuff in. Then for each previously active regiment. So that's a very interesting statement or way of saying it. So once again, if this one was disabled and now I make it able again, when it says previously active, this guy's not going to get to act this turn. So that's a good thing for me. That's why it's important to ambush them or attack them and get them out of the way so they can't take actions. You can see up here, in the 128th Guard sector over here, I've disabled 2 of their 3 tanks. If their card is going, and it's not going to be drawn this time, they wouldn't be able to take many actions. So that's a good thing. All right, so for each active regiment in the sector, in increasing order of their district's number, you can see there are different numbers here. So increasing order, you're going to start at 7, 8, or 9, I'm sorry, 7, 5A, 7, and then 9. So you're going to kind of go in order, and then this one's 8, and take actions as they can. So then you're going to follow this priority. If an arrest is possible, arrest, then decrease readiness by -1. Readiness is basically an alert level that the Soviets are cautious and it's harder to ambush them. They're going to do more damage to you when they attack. So getting that down is a good thing. There are not a lot of ways to get it down. Typically when they arrest a citizen, that is going to reduce by 1. So I would reduce the readiness by 1, and then I would arrest. So I'm going to arrest this unit. So therefore, this unit has taken its turn. They're going to go into the arrested, killed units box. At the end of this round, that's going to hurt me by lowering my morale. Then you're going to go to the next unit. Well, there's nobody in their area that they can arrest. If there's no garrison present, it says, so if you can look here in Sector 9, there is a garrison present, so neither of these are going to do a garrison action. If that garrison was not there and it was in the ready area, one of the units' action would be, or one of these regiments' action would be to establish a garrison. That garrison is going to reduce my morale and otherwise affect me. It's not a good thing. Then, if insurgent units present but no barricade present, inflict 1 damage, +1 if the readiness is 4 or higher. Our readiness after playing this card would have been a 4, so they're actually going to do 1 damage +1 because the readiness is 4 or higher. Right now they don't have, so he acted, I turned him over. So this guy is actually going to move in there. There is no barricade present. He's going to do 2 damage. This guy is hidden. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do to stop damage. He's going to do 2 damage to me and he's going to kill me. Unfortunately, that's the way it happens. Let's say there are a few units in there. If the units are hidden and that guy comes in is going to do a damage, I get to decide which unit the damage is placed on. My ambush guys are really important. That's what that icon is. I'm going to damage my counterattack guy. Oh, look, I have a counterattack card. Have to spend 3 ops. See this counterattack symbol? I wouldn't spend these 2 cards together, but it's what I've got just to show you. They're going to counterattack and bam. They're going to go ahead and disable. Now, they still have 1 damage to put up. These would go in the discard pile. But that's a counterattack. So a very cool element. They're going to do another damage, and I can choose to put, let's say, a damage on this guy. They can only take 2 damage. When they take 2 damage, they're ultimately going to be killed. So that's kind of how they attack. And then let's go back to this card. If, for example, there was another unit and there's nothing else for them to do, they're going to move to the highest threat adjacent district. So let's say this guy hadn't acted. The highest threat adjacent district, this is actually the highest threat because it has 3 insurgents. If this had 4 insurgents or 3 insurgents, they would move in there. But because there's nothing, they're going to move towards that nearest threat. They can never cross the river into the other sector, nor can they cross this boundary into the 2nd Guard's mechanized division. So once that's done, this card is finished. You put it in the discard pile, and you go back to the insurgent's turn. So that's the way the Konyev deck over here works. You're going to work through those cards, taking their actions. They're fairly devastating. And now I'm going to show you what the insurgents can do. So let me go ahead and pull to the, let me pull my, where's my, that's the wrong player aid. Yeah, here's a really good player aid. So this is the revolutionary, you can see there at the top. So this is going to tell me all the actions that I can take. We'll go down, move. You can basically spend 1 op to move 1 space, and you can move a group. So for instance, let's go back to the map. And there is no move symbol, so I just have to play 1 op to move a group 1 space. So I would play this card. That's my action this turn. I'm going to move a couple of these guys. For instance, I'm going to move a guy here. These guys I could then maybe move away So then I'm out of danger and they can't kill me. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Making videos doesn't help. The next one is open attack. Open attack is something that you do if you do not have an ambush symbol. So let me show you these. This is an insurgent unit that has 2 symbols. These are less common. I think there are 7 of these to start the game spread out. And they are spread out randomly. So you can't necessarily know exactly where your powerful units are going to be. And you have to really worry about how to move them around to make them the most effective fighting force that you can muster. This Molotov cocktail here, that allows them to do an ambush if they're in an area with that. But if not, let's just say they don't have they can do what's called an open attack. An open attack costs 3 ops. So some of these symbols I just wouldn't want to use because they're important. Here, so 3 ops, I'm going to play this card. Bam, this guy's going to open attack. He's going to disable. But that unit, that regiment, is going to... and I have to reveal that unit if it was hidden. Sorry, I forgot to tell you about that. So on an open attack, they're going to get to damage you automatically. So I'm going to take 1 damage. If that guy was wounded, he would be killed. That is going to gain you what's called a momentum. Here's a momentum token. It's just a Hungarian flag. You're going to put it in your revolutionary momentum thing. And this is going to benefit you at the end of the turn during cleanup. It's going to reduce prestige based on the number of these you have in your holder here. And it's 1 point of prestige reduction per 2. So if you have 3, you're only going to reduce 1. At the end of the round, you're then going to get rid of the 2 that you used, and you're going to keep that 1. But it's very common, if you do open attacks and a couple of ambushes, it's very common for you to have 3 or 4 of these around. I think the most I've ever gotten was 5 or 6. So you can reduce their prestige by at least 2. So that's open attack. It's dangerous because you're going to be attacked back. Help civilians flee. So civilians, remember, let me show you an example. So I'm going to put, here's a civilian. There's one here. So you have to play 6 ops minus the number of insurgents you have. So I'm going to have to spend 5 ops in this space to have that guy escape. So here I would play those 5 ops. Boom. That would escape to the heading to Austria box. I think there's another name for it, but that's what I'm going to call it. And that at the end of the game is going to reduce their prestige. You'll notice that one was a 0. It's not going to reduce it, but they can't capture it, put it in this killed or captured or arrested box and hurt me at the end of the game. So that's help a civilian flee. You've got ambush. Ambush, let me go back to this site. And the key of this game is most of these actions you have to match with a symbol on your cards. So here I have some ambush cards. It costs 3 ops. So I'm going to play this one because there I have a Molotov cocktail on the card. I'm going to reveal this guy. He's not disabled. I wouldn't do it on a disabled tank. And then that's going to be disabled. Once again, I will gain a momentum, a token, and that guy can't take actions until he's rallied. You've got build barracks. You can discard one op. So let me pick a good example. Let me use this sector here. I have a barricade here. So we're looking at this sector here. I have 2 insurgents. I also have 1 active regiment. So it's going to cost 1 plus the number of active regiments. So I'm going to have to play 2 ops with a barricade symbol to get this one to go off. There I have a barricade card. Don't look at those icons. It doesn't matter. These are 2 ops. So then this guy's going to uncover himself and he's going to put out a barricade. A barricade is important because some of these Konyev cards will say if there's a barricade present, you can't attack them. So then they have to spend their turn removing the barricade. You can never build more than 1 barricade in each district, in each area. So it really isn't a permanent, it's really a stopgap for when they move in immediately. Counterattack, I already showed you how that works. Very cool. Remember, you have 12 of these cards as long as your morale is above 18. So you can do 2 or 3 counterattacks every time as long as you have high value cards and do some damage to him and maybe end the round with 5, maybe 6 disabled units, which is going to help you quite a bit in the end. Some other actions are tied to different variants in the game. We're not going to necessarily cover those deeply, but Defy and the Medic. You can also recruit, which is at the beginning of the round, so you have to have a recruit symbol. So during the recruit, if I played this card with 1 op and the recruit symbol, I would then get to draw 1 reinforcement from the insurgent pool. So I would pick out, I want a guy that has another Molotov cocktail. I can't put them with regiments or garrisons. I have to kind of spread them out. So I may put him up here and then have to move them down to do different damage. So that's kind of an overview of the actions that are available to the insurgents. We've gone over the Konyev deck. So now what I wanted to do, I think I've generally shared somewhat of how to play this game, and you're just going to try to survive. This is going to move along. You're going to lose units. They're going to move around. You're going to keep getting killed. And as you go down, you're going to try to survive to here. If you ever have less than 6, let me go to that surrender rule. I believe if it's less than 6 or 6 or less, you can decide to surrender, which deciding to surrender is a good thing because then you're able to kind of make peace with this. You're going to reduce the Russian prestige based on the number of guys you have on the board, and then you're going to go through revealing all these numbers, reducing it even more. And you would have to sit there and try to understand, hey, do I have enough guys on the board to do much? Are they all wounded? Are they all uncovered? Can they really do anything? Or should I just go ahead and surrender to try to make the best out of the situation? So once again, I said to you, don't count on winning this by destroying all these tanks and garrisons. Never going to happen. In fact, in my 5 games I've played, we've never even come close. I think my highest, I got their prestige down to 3. One time, I think I got it down to 4, a couple of others. So it's doable. I just needed a lucky draw on some cards. I needed them to not get those Wicked Assault, which I didn't show you, but that Assault Konyev card is so bad. But you can decide to surrender to then kind of force an endgame reckoning where you have an option to potentially win. So real quick, what do I like about this game? One, the production value is amazing. These blocks are really nice. You can see, sorry, I kicked the camera stand. You can see the stickers are very cool. They have nice graphics on them. I like the colors. I'm a fan of green. It actually feels like Christmas here. I think the counters are very nice. There are no dice in this game, which is pretty cool. They do use these glass beads for these markers, which I think is a cool thing. I liked that. Something different. The cards are well made. The graphics are well made. There's a lot of designer notes at the end of the book. Let me show you this. So that production value is really nice. In general, I believe the rules are very well written and they are fairly clear. I just believe there are some times that I feel like they're open to interpretation a couple of times, particularly on the Marshal Konyev cards. I would have liked to have maybe seen them clean up some of that language. I've even thought about correcting that on mine just to give myself notes to better understand how it's supposed to work. But the rules are pretty good. The mechanics are interesting. Once again, this is not a traditional war game. You're not lining up units hoping to move in and smoke the Russians. That's not going to happen. Don't try. Give up on that dream. All you're trying to do is strategically ambush a couple of elements or get some of these citizens off. You'll notice in this game, I only had 1 or 2 citizens left on the board because in the end, those are very valuable to you in getting the prestige down, but they also keep them away from the Russians. And I think that's a very neat element. So give up that dream of destroying by force. You have to use the combination of their abilities with counterattacks, ambushes, open attacks, building key barricades. So for example, some of the strategy is very cool. Like, I might have used this guy to build this barricade. Then, let's assume these guys are kind of in this sector and the setup's different. The next time I can move, I might try to move this guy here and build another barricade or move someone else in there just to make it really hard for them to attack me. And then you got to be ready with several of these. Here I've got 2 units that can ambush. I got to be ready and willing to move in there pretty quickly and then hope I get the right type of draw. And I might be able to ambush 2 or 3 things. And that can be very, very powerful. So I really like those strategies, trying to match the available icons you have with the cards that you have. And once your morale drops to 18 or less, you start drawing only 8 cards. So going from 12 cards to 8 cards, I'm here to tell you, is a huge difference. Cards are random, draws are random, so it potentially could steal 2 to 4 actions from you that you might have been able to take if you had those 4 extra cards and if you were lucky and drew lots of 2s and 3s. But remember, there's only a limited number of each number in that deck. So once you draw all the 3s, guess what? You're not drawing any 3s until the deck runs out. So you got to be aware of that. You got to almost think about that fairly regularly. Really like that element. I love the element of matching the symbols with the cards. I really like the element of trying to figure out which guys I want to bring on at what time, to what areas and what sectors, and how they can help me. And I really like those elements of planning. I think this is a very planning-heavy game, and you've really got to think ahead. But I did mention earlier, one of the elements that's a little hard to deal with is when you set up your game at the beginning. You're going to set up these different type of blocks. I believe these are called local insurgents because they have 2 icons, and then the guys with 1 are just like locals, or something like that. So they set up in different areas, and it's random. You have 7 or 8 or so of those, and you're going to randomize them, put them out. You're never going to know. Your ambush guys may all be in this sector when you really need them spread out. So that's another challenge that you need to overcome, figuring out how to move them around and get your resources where they need to be. I also like the concept of minimizing your damage, trying to figure out, I can lose a unit here or there, but I can't lose this unit, so I need to move him out. Keeping units hidden is very important. At the end of the cleanup phase, you're going to hide all your units again. And the interesting thing is when you're playing someone else, they only know what they see. So if you turn this guy up after having used him, you're gonna take these and shuffle them in your hand and put them back down so that he doesn't know where is what. Now the wound tokens, I haven't played it actually versus yet, so I don't remember how they're carried over. But those are also, once again, an interesting challenge, and it's an interesting challenge just to figure out how to get that prestige down while maintaining morale, so I can stay in the game. A lot of you wargamers, this is not going to be for you. I'm just going to be honest. This is a lighter, I won't say an introductory level because it's really complex in the systems and what you're trying to do, but it's not a hex and counter game. It uses counters, it's area movement. There's a little bit, some aspects of area control, but really what it is it's trying to match symbols and kill guys. It feels very Euro game. But I really like it. I've played it, once again, I've played it 5 or 6 times now. I've enjoyed almost every play. The system is simple enough that you can just run through it and it's not really taxing. I don't feel like I have to bust my brain just to follow the AI. It's fairly laid out. There's a system for what cards are replaced. There's actually, during the cleanup, which is this is not something that I talked about, but during the cleanup phase, you're actually, if you have, I think it's 2 or more disabled Soviet regiments, you're going to be able to pull out 2 of those Konyev cards in that deck so that they can't come back in for a couple of rounds. So I might hold out assault because, man, that was really bad, or occupy was really bad for me, or I don't want the second guards to activate at all this next turn. I may pull both of their cards out so that they can't get into the deck and get in the mix. So there's a lot of those elements to that system that are fairly simple. It's easy to follow, and frankly, it's a fun game to play. I know I've been talking to Ian, the Rocky Mountain Wargamer, and he loves this game. I think it was in his top 10 list of games from 2019. This is a 2019 release. I'm not sure this game made it into my top 10, but I'm going to tell you it's right on that fringe. I think it's very enjoyable and is worth the investment. So that's a look at Knights of Fire Battle for Budapest, really a look at the solo version using the Marshall Konev deck. There's another way you can play it, competitive. I'd like to try that. Alexander and I have not necessarily gotten into that, but it is something that we would like to try, hopefully in the next month or two. We've just got so many games to play. But definitely this is worth taking a look at if you're looking for a change of pace, something a little different. It's a very cool historic period. And I would say this game is much more a war game than the predecessor, Days of Ire. Days of Ire felt really like a Euro, but I really liked that one too. So I liked both of them. I own both of them. They're in my collections. I think they're good games. I think they're enjoyable, and I think that you will enjoy them as well. So let me know what you thought. Let me know if you have any differing opinions, or if there was something I may have overlooked or messed up. I know there's quite a bit in this game to cover, but it's going to take you a little bit of effort to get comfortable with that solitaire system and get comfortable with how to manage these very limited and very fragile resources so that you can stay in the game as long as you can. It is a real challenge. I'm going to be honest, a real challenge to make it to the 7th. Most of my games have ended somewhere in the late 5th, early to mid 6th day of the 6th. And I don't know. I've seen some people online. They do things differently than I. Maybe I'm too aggressive. But it's a tough game. It's going to challenge you. And I think I like that in a solitaire game. It makes it fun. The replayability is high because the random setup, the way this random deck works, what card draws you get, and just trying to figure out that puzzle, because each game's going to be different. You can also add in like a harder, more difficult level. You'll notice up here there are these white boxes on this prestige track. These are for different, more hard levels. You might start the Soviets at 23. So that's going to be even harder for you to get that down to a winning level. And man, I'm going to tell you, 26, I don't even know how you would potentially do that. But you can do that. Lots of replayability. Very well done. Interesting game covering a very interesting historic event and period. So thanks for watching. I've been Grant for the Player's Aid. Hopefully I can play this a little more, and I might update you on our blog about, I've thought about doing a series of action point posts describing the mechanics. We'll see where that goes. But thanks for watching, and I appreciate it.